and for the people who actually tragically lost their home. I had a sister who lost her home in the Pacific Palisades. We owed it to them to make sure that the remnants of their community would be kept safe as possible. So when it turns out that we sent a message from the very beginning to the would-be looters, the arsonists, the people who would be impersonating firefighters, the price gougers, and the financial scammers, the question is not if, but when they would be arrested, then prosecuted, then punished to the maximum extent of the law. But when we turn to the law of looting, it turns out when we pulled open the penal code, we saw that the law of looting was actually underwhelming. We could charge first-degree burglary and get people years of state prison, but the law of looting itself actually only provided for a misdemeanor with a 1-year county jail sentence. So one of the interesting things and one of the best things to come of this crisis is the fact that people from across the political spectrum put down their political differences to see if they could actually accomplish something, and AB 469 is accomplishing something. What it does is it strengthens the laws of looting. So now it's a felony. Now you can go to state prison if you engage in these acts of looting during a state of emergency. It strengthens the laws dealing with impersonating a firefighter, a police officer, a National Guardsman during this state of emergency. It deals with some of the loopholes out there. For instance, if you go into a house and the house is not occupied because no one's there, they've been evacuated. Now this law deals with those loopholes, deals with the same thing with cars that have been abandoned during a state of emergency. And it also doesn't stop during the state of emergency. It continues on during the renewal and the rebuild process. I so appreciate the bipartisan effort by our Assembly members to go ahead and deal with this topic straight on, to increase the tools that we are now given in law enforcement to go after the looters, to make sure they understand that if they want to engage in their despicable acts during a state of emergency, they will be held maximally accountable. So again, that is the good part of the wildfire crisis, unfortunately, is that it has brought people together to get something done, and I applaud that. I'd now like to turn to Assembly Member Blanca Pacheco.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us here this early morning of the day. I am Assemblywoman Blanca Pacheco, and I have the honor and pleasure of representing the 64th Assembly District, which is parts of Valley County and a little bit of Orange County. And I am also a proud author to this critical measure alongside my colleagues, Assembly members Gabriel, Irwin, and Harabedian. When disaster strikes, no one should have to choose between following evacuation orders and protecting their property. Our bill sends a clear message that we will not tolerate Californians being criminally targeted during their most vulnerable moments. Today, I want to focus on a disturbing trend exposed during the recent devastating fires in Los Angeles: the impersonation of firefighters and first responders. Our communities rely on the brave men and women who risk their lives to protect us. The public's trust in these first responders is essential to guarantee effective emergency services and evacuation efforts. But last month, we saw individuals using fake firefighter gear and even purchased fire truck to gain access to evacuation zones with the intent to loot homes. This shameless criminal activity compromises the emergency response system and the safety of our communities. Under current law, impersonating a first responder during an emergency or disaster carries the same penalties as in ordinary circumstances. This lack of differentiation fails to recognize the heightened danger that these crimes pose when our communities are most vulnerable. Our bill makes impersonation of emergency personnel during a disaster or in an evacuation zone an enhanced felony. This enhanced penalty reflects the severe risk that these deceptive threats pose to public safety and emergency operations. When people see a firefighter or other first responder during an emergency, they need to know with absolute certainty that the uniform and equipment is being worn and used by someone who is sworn to protect. This issue is personal to me, as my brother is a Cali County firefighter and he was at the Eaton Fire. I am proud to support this legislation, not just as an elected official, but also as a family member who understands the sacrifice and dedication of our first responders, who have worked tirelessly day in and day out to contain these fires. This bill will help to safeguard the trust that first responders deserve, as well as the property that families want to preserve. So again, thank you all for joining us this morning, and I would like to now hand the mic over to my colleague, Assemblymember John Herbedian.